Welcome everyone back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, do me a solid. Hit the like button and the subscribe. It's the least you could do for the hard work and endeavour we try and put into this channel. But thank you very much. You've really enjoyed the content recently. I've seen it in the data. So I really appreciate you spending a bit of time. I want you to know, who are watching at home, it does mean a lot to me, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, you just see me through a camera. So there is kind of stuff that goes on off camera that, you know what, I am human. Do you know what I mean? I bleed, I cry. Sometimes I laugh. So it does mean well to me. Just to be heard sometimes makes you feel good. So aim of this channel has always been one viewer, fucking Fandabby Dozy. So if you are more than that one viewer, just know that that goes a long way. Lot going on this week on the show. There is a members-only video of the Hot 20 that drops this evening. So there's some entertainment for you. Tomorrow, we've got super fan and good friend of mine, Danny, on the Pommy Ponders show, where we're going to be discussing AFL rules and things like that. You can become a member to do that. You've got some wonderful content that's members only there. It's the price of a cup of coffee. So if you want to join that, you get some cool little emojis. And just know that, you know, Pom appreciates you. So that's very nice of you. And here what we're talking about today is the prepandered AFL rule changes and how they may look and they affect. So let's get straight into it. So we don't really know a lot about the AFL rules. And I've gone into the start of this intro, as you've heard, saying that there's a lot of planning goes into this video. Ironically, this is more of a kickback chat, and I thought we could bash it out because I've got a few ideas of what it will look like, first and foremost, but then also what it will entail. So let's get into it because they have put no planning into this. So one, what is the issue? Well, I mean, the issue for me is clearly abundant, and we've talked about this if you've watched my draft content for nearly 3 years now, that the NGA and father-son bidding system is as archaic and as stupid as it ever has been. And we've seen this with Gold Coast last year, having, 4 top 20 players and basically giving up peanuts, giving up their first rounder, which benefits another team, which goes against the equalisation system to monopolise second and third rounders. And with the AFL's very bizarre formation of matching a bid where you get basically a discount. Remember, we described it as a Costco card, that if you pay $4 at one shop, you only pay $2 with the Costco card. It's very archaic. And for me, it's one of them systems that potentially I think can be abused. And lo and behold, it's been abused for 3 years. And with another jeopardized draft coming up this year, again, we've got quite a few father and sons in the top 10, but also you've got Tasmania coming in 2028. You're going to have a more compromised draft. And we talked about last year being a heavily compromised draft. And it needs to change. Because to me, if you've got an equalisation system that can be negated by the fact a former player had sex 18 years ago, or the fact someone is born in where one of your academies is, it kind of prohibits the purpose if you're doing it in a reverse ladder order where rubbish teams get good picks, good teams get lesser value picks. It is silly. So how are they going to make this negotiate? So there's probably 3 avenues they go with this, but I would say that the most likely occurrence is that we see a freeze on first round picks, and you have to have a first rounder to match a bid in the first round, a second rounder in the second, and a third round as part of your payment structure. Do I like this? Probably not. Does it affect Carlton? I don't think it affects Carlton as much as other clubs, because I think you'll see Ben with his position and the fact it's a very heavily monopolised position will be about pick 15 anyway. Lucas will be in the mid-20s. So I think Tom Morris's example he gave today, it needs to be said that Tom Morris, as good as he is a journo at times, completely basing that on both of them being top 20s, which I can categorically 100% say won't happen. Everyone always alludes to teams will bid on players to piss other teams off. The AFL is probably one of the least competitive trade and draft structures we see in professional sport. Everyone works together. Very rarely do we see a player not get to the club that he wants. And very rarely do we see teams use bids. Hence Nick Dacos being night and day the best player, him not going pick 1. It's a very common occurrence that it is proven fathers and sons actually slide. And you look at where Gold Coast picks came in this year, they were way below, apart from one where people expected them to go. And that is because the father and son, with it being a matching system, will change. People were saying, oh, well, the rule changes, Pommy, it will change. No, it won't. Because we had the Hugh Greenwood loophole that still exists in the delisting to rookie position. No one's utilised it since. The MSD taking people, only one player's gone to MSD, Jack Martin. It's never been utilised again. The AFL is a system where the players and coaches alike know the rules, know how to bend them, and know which ones to bend that will breach future trading. And you've got to remember that the AFL trading system is an ecosystem. And for an ecosystem to work in business, everyone kind of's got to get on. If you don't get on, you'll get screwed down the track. So do I project someone will go pick Ben Camporelli? Won't happen. It won't happen. Can I prove it? Well, yes, I can. It's never happened in the history of the AFL, and it probably won't do because the chances are. But could it happen? Yes, it could. It could. But will it happen? No, it won't. Because you look at the teams that would look at these type of players, they're also tied up in AFL systems. Adelaide particularly are absolutely stiffed on this because Tyler Welsh has been someone they've been planning on having for 3 years. They're not going to do it. So it's going to be interesting. So how will these rules work? So I predict that what it is. And basically the push is that first rounders have a little bit more value. And we've seen this in the AFL draft. It was very interesting that the Gold Coast trade, the Doggies were one of the beneficiaries of this, which made no sense to me because it would have been great if them first were going to worse clubs. So if they were trading out to get ahead of where them bids are, it would be fantastic if, say, West Coast were in a situation where they could trade 3 of their later first for an earlier first. Then the system probably won't have an issue. But what we are seeing is historically good clubs in the ladder-wise are benefiting because other clubs are trying to escape back. So it's effectively giving good clubs 2 bites at the cherry, not just with NGA and father-son, but also from being trade things. So I do like this rule. I am actually all for this rule. The timing I'm not against, and the timing I'm strongly against. I think it is probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen 3 months out for a draft, which is when the decision will be made. It should be something that is instilled from here. It should have been something that was instilled for me by force before the Gold Coast draft, because we talked about this a year before. Gold Coast were going to monopolise this. And okay, you could argue their 4 players might have not been top 20 because of things happened. It was a high likelihood, though, that they would definitely be top 40. It should have been implemented. So I do think that that's what's going to happen. They're basically not going to protect the players. What they're going to do is they're going to protect the players via how the NGA works for Eastern clubs at the moment, which is basically if you want the players that are tied to your NGA, like Colby McCurcher, although they gave them a free pick so they could select Colby McCurcher, it's going to be literally you're going to have to use your bid on it. You're going to use it. And I think that's what they'll do. Do I like that? Yes and no. I think that there will be a caveat that there will be an option to live trade, which then I think will mean that the future first rounders are trying to be used. Now, is there a way to make this a little bit more streamlined? I do think there is. I think that the first thing that I would be instilling if I was Laura Kane and Dylan would be 4 years worth of draft picks. Currently, the AFL rules indicate that you've got to have 2 first rounders in every 4-year window. I think that that should come in this year anyway, because we've got 2028 to come where there is going to be compromised drafts. Give teams chance to really get around that now. So if you are a mid-sized team, mid-age team, you can start trading these assets out now to try and get the players that you know about today. If you are a Hawthorn and you've done your hard work early, maybe this gives them an option to trade their first rounders out to other clubs to bring in talent to help secure their young talent that they've already got. I would like to see, though, that if this rule is implemented, that the Western states that are protected, the Northern states, NGAs, that is also eradicated. I think the way to equalise this draft, I agree it's not equalised, is 1 to 30 should have no protection if we're going to get rid of the father-son protection and have some kind of caveat. There should be a little bit more onus that I think teams that are bidding around these players have a little bit of a benefit to it. So I would love to see that the protection is kind of lightened and an option for trading. And I think the only way that you can have an option for trading, so let's have an example here. Let's say Ben Camporelli is the 15th best player in priority order. Let's say a pick comes in pick 12. Let's just, argument's sake, say that's Fremantle, right? Just for sake of this example. Carlton obviously can't match it with pick 16, right? say that if they've got a first rounder, we have the rule that 16 can help match it, and they're going to have to give it a bit of secret sauce. That's fine. Okay, Carlton lose a first rounder. There should be an option, though, that if Carlton didn't have a first rounder because, say, it's been future traded and the rule has been implemented, that Carlton can trade for that pick 14. And I would love to see that open up with 4 years picks. So if that's something like, okay, tell you what, Fremantle, we'll give you 2 first rounders for 14 and have a second this year coming back, that would then encourage a more equalisation system. I would love to see teams bidding on it be beneficiaries, because the idea of a draft is, regardless of if they came out of the ball bag of a player 18 years ago or if they were born in a certain suburb, should be that if I have the 4th pick in the AFL draft, I can take the 4th best asset. There should be some caveats. So if you are going to get rid of it, the caveat needs to go. But that also works for the Eastern States. So like Gold Coast Academy, there should be an onus here that there is a discounted rate, but they have to have the value to buy these players. Or they're not in the draft system and they lose picks. There needs to be a clear indication of that. For me, though, I feel that the 4-year system is the way to go. Encourage a bit more trading and encourage a little bit more methodology around how these teams go. On a Carlton specific thing, do I think it's going to affect Carlton? No, I don't, because one, I am not 100% convinced it will get in this year. I think there is far too many teams with heavily influence. Brisbane, Adelaide, Carlton, Gold Coast, who are the pets of the AFL to do it. And I think if it is, it's going to be heavily subsidised. I do like the fact, though, that teams are being forced to retain a first rounder. And I do think that should be the rule. For me, the more favourite methodology is to try and get teams to do list management in the perseveration of where these players will go. And that's what they do. So, you know, when people say it's hard to tell, they do know, because they trade picks away knowing that they've got the point system for it, because they know when about the bid will come. And also teams know who are bidding, it's going to be matched. So you saw Gold Coast last year. We talked about it. They almost had the exact figure for worst case scenario. Teams are going to know it. So I think to match a bid in the first, you should retain at least 1 first rounder. To match a bid in the second, there needs to be at least a second rounder in there or better. 3rd, 4th, after pick 40, I'm quite open for it to be a free-for-all and people can get what they want. But that, for me, is the fix. And if you do that, then you can still encourage teams to trade in front of it. So let's say Carlton have pick 16. There is nothing that stops them under this system. From what we know about the rules, Carlton can't use a future first and maybe a player and get pick 8, pick 9, pick 10 and retain that pick 16. I think that is a fair system. Do I like it, though, this short notice? No, I don't. I think it really shows why we're unprofessional. But I wanted to clarify here that I don't think there's going to be a scenario at all where these players don't get. It will probably affect your ability to manipulate the draft, which it should do. It's a nightmare. It's here. The big one Carlton want to worry about is Cody Walker, who, by all accounts of what he looks, there's still a long way to go. He does look like, because of the position he plays, he will be in that top 10. So it means Carlton have got time to plan. And it's probably a good year to do it now, because this plan will require future firsts, which means it won't affect 2026. But I hope that clarifies it, because at the moment we don't know very much about it. But it is a silly rule to come in this late in the season. I agree that it was pandered. We did hear these rumours in my content, August, September, that it was there. It should have been enacted almost instantaneously after the draft, and a compromise will be get. There will be a compromise somewhere, though. I can guarantee you that, should it come in this system. And I'm hoping it is the 4-year rule. But peace, love and light. Don't worry, everyone. The Camporellis will come here. Tyler Welsh will be at Adelaide. Ashcroft will be at Brisbane. It won't affect that. You may not get the secret sauce that you're wanting, but I have no doubt that the AFL, the way it works, it will still do. But this rule is going to be a really interesting one, because I think it really fares the draft out long term, and it also fares out trading. You're going to see a lot more value to first and second rounders, where we've seen that seconds and thirds and fourths have actually attained more value in AFL trades. So you are going to see probably higher values for players, which benefits clubs who have heavy movement. So I do like this, and it's probably a good rule for Tasmania, because they're probably going to be a team that is poached very early. The value of these players is going to be huge. So look after yourselves. Peace, love and light. Palm out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.